Now, you may think I'm avoiding one of the famous beliefs of Calvin, the one that has caused thousands of books to be written and arguments through the ages: predestination. You've probably heard that. That word is the single most misunderstood word of Calvin's theology in the thousands of words he wrote. Some people think that they don't have to do anything because they are predestined to be among the chosen who will go to heaven. So they just sit back. Funny, no one ever announces they are predestined to go to hell. Now others, well, they say that God has taken away their free will. They can't choose what to do because God has made all the choices in their lives. But there's a difference between predetermined, which means that God has decided each and every step we take, what we will have for breakfast, what we will do as a job, who we will marry, how many kids we will have, what names we will give the kids. That's different than predestination, which means that God has given us a spiritual destiny in which we can use our free will to carry out this spiritual destiny. Now, some may think this is a fine distinction, or maybe no distinction at all. But it all lies in Calvin's belief in the relationship of God as an absolute being to us, a finite being. God is a qualitatively different being than we are. And we can only perceive God partially, and that God has created us, but not abandoned us. God has also given us free will. Now, earlier I had mentioned God would appear on Election Day. Actually, that'd be pretty scary if he showed up at your kitchen table or even on your TV on Election Day. However, John Knox, who was Scottish, spent years studying with Calvin in Geneva. When he returned to Scotland, the British Isles were just in turmoil. King Henry VIII had broken with the Catholic Church because the Pope wouldn't give him a divorce so he could marry a woman who would give him a son. She never did, but that's beside the point. He converted the whole country from the Catholic Church to the Church of England. With the king taking the place of the Pope, he replaced Catholic bishops with English bishops, Church of England bishops. Now in the north, the Church of Scotland was formed. Now Scotland had had a long, long history of egalitarian governance, electing leaders and councils going back hundreds and hundreds of years. And so the Church of Scotland was created in this way. As Scottish Presbyterians moved to America in the 17th century, they brought with them this more egalitarian government. And when it gained popularity as they broke away from the hierarchical governmental system of England in the colonies. So a week from Tuesday, you'll see our governmental process in action, which is modeled after the Church of Scotland. Although we might like it to run a little bit smoothly than I think it will. Now, I'd also mention that Calvin is with us on YouTube. And don't change the channel and looking for him. Well, he's not exactly there. The hallmark of the Reformed tradition is the phrase reformed and always reforming. You may have heard this. One of the major reforms that the Reformation brought about was in worship. At the time, worship at the Catholic Church was a private affair. People watched it happen. It was between the priest and God. In fact, you could have your own private worship service at home if you had enough money. As with Scripture, the Reformation opened up worship to everyone. And it brought people into worship of God. Now, throughout the centuries, the Reformed tradition has made many changes in worship to bring people closer into the service. Sometimes these changes work, like having services in English and Spanish and Mandarin rather than in Latin. Sometimes these changes didn't. But the Reformed tradition has always been reforming. And now, when people can't gather together in person, we have reformed the way we worship. And as you may have noticed, our worship service at Covenant Presbyterian Church is structured much like the service in the Geneva service in 1541. Not the language, but the structure. But it's a viral worship service on YouTube. That's quite a reformation.